こんばんは。最近ね、8番出口。あれは日本のゲームですけど、結構ループ系の不思議なゲームやって、で、次がポータル。あれも基本パズルですけど、世界観とかが不思議なゲームをやってときたら、着地点はここですよね。ザ・スタンリーパラブル。これパラブルで読み方合ってんの？パラブル言うてるけど。このゲームは、ナレーション大体、ゲームだけじゃなくて、そうですね。アニメとかでも、何々は何々したのであったみたいな。小説とかだとよく出てきますよね。あれはナレーションとは言わないですけど。てか、声がお釈迦なんですけど、なんか。あれが、指示中なんですよね。あれに従ってもいいし、従わなくてもいいっていうゲームなんですよ。で、だいぶ昔にやった覚えがあるんですけど、ほんまにだいぶ昔に。なんか元は、ポータルとかもそうでしたけど、バルブっていうスチームの運営会社の作ってる、なんでしたっけな、あれ。なんとかライフみたいな。そういうゲームのモッドとして出たらしいんですよ。だから多分それをやったんかな。小学生くらいの時やったんで、多分それなんじゃないかなと思うんですけど。からんで最近っていうか、去年、なんかウルトラデラックスっていうのが出て、それですね、今回やるのは。で、これなんですけど、実は始める前に2回起動してるんですよ。ミカさんこんばんは。いらっしゃいませ。好奇心にお世話まのじくって肩書き間違えてませんか？円骨目の鬼でしょ？いや、違いますよ。円骨目の鬼なんかちょっと雑魚いですしね。響き的に。もちろん低評価を押さないでください。そして、うんつくんありがとうございます。で、そう、これ、始める前に1回目起動確認と、だから2回目音量調整で開いたんですけど、その時にもう現在時刻入力って出てきたんですよ。2回とも。で、2回ともちゃんと入力したら、なんかちゃんと入力してくれてありがとうみたいなの出てきて、で、なんか、他の人っていうかほとんどの人は、ゼロのまま進めんのに、入力してくれてありがとうね、みたいな感じで言われて、じゃあ次起動するとき、あなたの好きな時間を入力してくださいっつって、で、今に至るんですよ。入力してみてくださいって。だから入力してみようかな。でも好きな時間で難しいな。私も指示込めしとこう。いや、今回でもナレーションが指示中やから指示し放題ですよ。でもシンプルに夜中の1時とか好きかもしれんな。夜中の1時とかにしますか？お昼とかでもいいんですけど、AM1 時。ほら、午前1時、あなたのお気に入りの時刻。もしくは、ただ単にもう一度正しい時間を入力せずにはいられなかったのでしょうか？結局あなたが正しい時間に設定するのをどんなに楽しんでいるか、私は知ってますからね。どういうこと？さあ、ここで私が知りたいのは、午前1時がどれほど正確なのかということです。他のスライダーで調べてみましょう。どういうこと？どれくらい正確ですって何？知らん。意味がわからん。言われてる意味がわからないから、このくらいにしとくか。今の時刻と合ってるかってことかな。やとしたらほんまに、いや、こんなもんが、そう遠くはない。時間的に。時計が正確かどうか関係なく、この設定を調整するのは素晴らしいひとときなんです。あなたがどのような設定が好みなのか、あなたのことをもっとよく知ることができた気がします。データを集めるのはいいことです。もっといっぱいスライダーがあればいいのに。でももう持ってるスライダーは 全部で早っ。もしかしたらあなたの新しいデータをかき集めるためにいくつか新しいスライダーを作れるかもしれませんね。難しく考えなくていいんですよ。イエイささっと新しいものを作りましょう。あなたが次にこのゲームを起動するときに、へぇ。なんだこれ、合ってないだろう。いや、まあ、合ってはないんですけど。うるさそと。これゲーム始める前からこんだけやってくれるのおもろすぎません？いや、このゲーム基本天才なんですよ。まだ始まってないんですよ。ちょっと音量がどうなのか今回もわからないんで、それ見ながらなんですけど。
This is the story of a man named
でかそう。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
もうちょい小さ
Orders
くても
came
さ
to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very
パラブル
peculiar
が好きな
happened.
人は、なんか
Something that would
2D のやつ
forever
ですよね。
change Stanley.
それなんか見たことある
Something he
ん
would
です。若
never
干だ
quite
け。
forget.
日本語版のやつで
He
す。
had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting,
めっちゃ
or
懐かしい
even
な。ほんま
say
にめちゃくちゃ
hi.
昔にやった覚えがある。
Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
感度高っ。まず感度が高すぎるので脅す。だから音がうるさいからもうちょい下げる。65くらいにしとく。そんな人差し指でキーボードポスポスするやつ。いやーでも触り始めはあんなもんじゃないですか？僕も小学生の頃はあんなもんでしたよ。で、これまず、高いな、感度。一旦、指示通りに動いてみますか。一番最初は。
All of his co-workers were gone. What
俺
could
たち
it
は全員い
mean?
なくなってしまった。
Stanley
どういうことで
decided
しょ
to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
どこに行けって？まっすぐ進めばいい？T さん、キーボード触る指が残ってるんですか？詰めすぎてません？
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his
あれ
left.
は左の方のドアに入りました。左ね。まあ、これ右左分からんやつだったらどうすんの？普通に間違えるやろ。右左じゃなくて、お箸持つ方、お椀持つ方から言えや。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he
上
might
の階
find
にあ
an
る上司
answer
のオフィスに
there.
行くことにしました。行きましょう、じゃあ。上の階にある上司のオフィスへ。
Coming to
上
a
の階ね。
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs
丁
to
寧
his
に下行け
boss's
るようになってる
office.
のおもろいですよね。これが上司のオフィス。空気感違いません？違いすぎませ
Stepping
ん？
into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked,
ほんまに誰も。
unraveled, Stanley
jump
wondered in
はできる。
disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the
恐るべ
terrible
き真実が
truth
上司の
that
後
his
ろにある
boss had
キー
been
パッドに
keeping
隠され
from
てる
him.
と。
And so the
これか。
boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number, 2845. But of course,
それは何？
Stanley couldn't possibly have
あ、
known
しかしも
this.
ちろんスタンリーがそのこと知ってるはずはありません。そうやんな。知らんわ、確かに。どうすんのじゃあ。知ってるはずもないねんから何もできんで。
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless,
何を入
since
力
he
したと
could
しても
never
無駄でした。
possibly know that the combination was
数字の組み合わせは2845ということは知らないのだから。そう、知らんねんからな。これだって一番最初はナレーションの通りにしましょうって言うんですから。
2845。
わかったって。じゃあ知ってるやんか。
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
を感じる。
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
ああ、こっちか。今俺、感度がさ。あ、ちょっと待った。字幕。どのように表示されますって今どうやって出ました？字大きくならへんかな？関係なさそう。あ、暗。これ普通に画面が暗いです。何にも見えへん。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
この疑問は長く続かないでしょう。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
彼にそれを知るだけの力があったでしょうか。オフィスにこんな建物ない。解釈違いだ。低評価を押さないでください。解釈違い。おー、すごい。従業員番号が記されていた。何番だっけ ?427、427。こっちね。せめてさ、指示するんやったらちゃんとどっちに行くかまで言ってくれへん。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It
こん
couldn't
な
be
もの
true.
真実なはずがない。
Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this
お、トイレに
time?
もある。
Was this the only reason
トイ
he
レに
was
もカメラ
happy
あり
with
ま
his
した。
boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
まあでもこの感じやとありそうですけどね。全部にカメラありますし。
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible?
これナレーションの人
Had he
同じ
truly
人らしいんで
spent
すよ。
his entire
確
life
か。
utterly
見た
blind
感じ。
to the world?
やっぱりちょっと年取った感ある？
But here was the proof.
もうちょい
The
若かった
heart
よ
of
な。
the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy,
幸
or
せ、悲
sad,
しい、満
or
足。
content. Walking,
す
eating,
げえなというか、
working,
暗
all of
い
it
な。
monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over
二度と
another
こうさせま
human
いと決
life.
意しました。
For he would dismantle the controls once
彼が制御
and
装置をこれっきり
for
完全
all.
に解体するのです。なんだって？どうやって？肉だね、これですよ。確かにそうですね。スタンリーはだって、スタンリーの意思じゃないですもんね。システムパワーオフ。
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes, He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold?
すごい。貼り付けたような青空。やったか？これジャンプできんかったっけ？
Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do.
ポータルで外出た時と同じくらいの開放感を感じる。こういうゲームで外出た時の開放感すごいですよ。ちょっとファンタジーすぎひんでも、外の景色が。ドアな。
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
らしいっすわ。っていうのが、まあこのゲームの本来の姿ですね。本来のあるべき姿です。感度もうちょっと上げるわ。感度もうちょっと上げるし、音量はもうちょっと下げる。ジャンプ。あるやん。スペース押してもジャンプせえへんかったね。なんか創作作りたての人が作ったゲームがありましたね。じゃあここから自由にやってみますか。ほら、さっき出えへんかったナレーション出ましたね。何書いてんのやろ。ズームとかできんかな。消しちゃった。間違って。逆につけたりはできひん。電話はならへん。iPad。
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
決して物語は進展しませんでした。すご。てかこれまだいいか。まずこれを消します。ついてるやつそれ消します。なんかあるな。
ベタベタ触ってますね。
じゃあ右で。スタンリーはよく知ってました。なるほど。従業員ラウンジに立ち寄りね。コーヒーこぼすの掃除大変なんぞ。いや、確かに。コーヒーは大変ですよね。
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
ただそこに立ち見とれました。でもこの部屋はほんまにいいな。最初の左側のドアに入りました。どういうこと？これってこと？まっすぐ行くか。ここ見たことある。怒ってるもしかして。指示に従うのがとても苦手。何でもクビにならなかったのはね。 確かに。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot.
異変ですね。
I'm
異
not
変が
your
起きてますね。
enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be
返さないといけ
difficult,
ないですよ。
but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now,
目が
I'm
一
not
人で決めようと
asking
し
for
ない。
me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life.
あ
She's
あ、
been
これでも見た
waiting.
ことあるな。彼女がどうのこうのみたいなやつ。暗っ。あ、出た。
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith
急
in
に悪
another,
口だな。
then pick up the phone.
いやでもな、こんな勝手になってる電話、恐ろしゅうって触れませんよね。ジャンプ他のボタンに設定してみるか。スペースが反応してるだけの可能性を一旦、関係ないんで戻します。彼女いなかったじゃん。泣かないでおじいちゃん。お、すごい。まるでみたいなタバコ落ちてます。
As Stanley picked up the phone, a white light engulfed him, filling him not just with radiance, but with hope. Hope for a life reunited one... Wait. Oh, goodness. Stanley, did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check.
髪がカサカサ言う
No,
こ
it's
と。
definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is
台本見て
actually
んな、これ。
somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I
終わ
can't
った。
believe it.
完全に終わり
Why
ま
not
した
notice it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person.
元は実在の人物なのです。だって
I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it
あ、やばい、
entirely.
バレた、こっ
It's
ちの
as though
存
you
在が。
completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful
役立つ教
instructional
育ビデオをご
video.
覧ください。お、
Choice.
始まった。
It's the best part of being a real person. But if used
Yeah,
incorrectly,
but
can
then-
also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people.
すげ
Or he
え。
could spend years of
虫を
hard
ハンバー
work
ガーにした。
forgetting how to read.
天才です
Which
よ、こい
choice
つ。
would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If
す
you
げえ
find
な。
yourself speaking with a person
魚にな
who
るよ、
does
そ
not
の
make
答え。
sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back sack and crack."
プラクティ
Excellent.
ス。
Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day.
うわー、ためになる。すごいね。わかったわかった。選択ね、選択。
And finally,
Hi,
if you
hi.
begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember, that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
ドラついていってみるか。それで？あ、すごい。柵がついてる。
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying.
確かに。この台から飛び降りると死んじゃうんですよね。
Halfway through the story, that story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative gets any worse.
宇宙から見ればね。
It seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
すごい。もう選択権がなくなった。あれでもこれ戻らされてるぞ。休憩室まで帰ってきたで。
You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending. The story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world.
左の扉を選び。メモ帳は何？あ、戻ってね。右に行ったとこ戻って左に行けと。これ普通にバグらされへん。このゲーム。
Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right.
All right.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左側の扉に入った。左ってこっちでしたっけ？
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
急いで。なんかこれレシートに書いてるやつみたいになってる。別ルートのヒントがあったりするんですよね、こういうとこに。なんだって？異変が起きてますね。これ帰った方がいいですよ。どこに何も起きる。このロッカーすごいな、形。なんかでもこういうオブジェクトありますよね。左入ったぞ。ああ。すごいことになってる。
What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. What am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever. Reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way.
大丈夫ですか？おじさん透けてませんか？おじさんの顔透けてる可能性あります。この先に出会うおじさんが。激ヤバロッカー。
No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
ああ。強制終了させられた。ナレーションのおじさんブチギレでした。あ、まだ終わってないの？でもこれ何？動いてんな。ゲームを終わらせるってこんな感じなの？ やりすぎやろ。
Did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you?
あなたの外にも世界があるだなんて。
Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious.
ナレーションの人の物語見たけど、なんか創作書き始めの人が書いたやつみたいになったって。よう喋んな自分。
Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
だから右と左が分からんねんて。
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back.
あ、なんてこった。
Exactly as Stanley would.
戻された。強制的に。 これここまで戻されたと見せかけて続いてますね。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
あ、もう何も言ってこれへんかった。おい。どうした？
No! Why did you do that?
超遅い。
Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right.
まだこのゲーム若干ホラーじゃないですけど、そういう要素あります。 だんだんこのおじさんの反応は鈍ってきてんだけど。
No! Why did you do that?
こっちまで戻ってこないとあかんねん。
Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm
これ一瞬右入って左入ったらどうなんですか？
Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right.
それやってみますか？
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
なんかナレーションのおじさんがノーっていうの遅いんで、一瞬右入って左入る。あ、でも普通に進んだっぽいな。いや、左に行くまで永遠こうっぽかったですよね、今。誰一人としていませんでした。ね、いろいろルートがあるんですけど、まあ、入り方は全然覚えてないですし、ほとんど。入り方はほとんど覚えてないですけど、絶対に1回では終わらんやつがあるんですよね。あ、なんかこういうのが出てくる有名なやつなかったでしたっけ？映像で。ダメージ。ブルーム。クローゼット。掃除用具箱か？あ、下の階の道がなくなってる。あ、そうです、それです。少し楽しくなる動画ですよね。あれ、いいっすよね。あれでも少しじゃなくて結構楽しくなりますけど。あれなんかこんな色と形でしたっけ？
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up. But now
決して
he
大声
would
出さ
draw
ない。
from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath
コード
and
を
then
口にしまし
spoke
た。
the code.
勝手に言わされてる。勝手に言わされそうになってる。なんか目に優しい色になりましたね。もっと真っ赤っかやったの。
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
壁の右側にある受話器に話しかけたんです。これかな？
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me,
何か問
did
題
you?
でも？
Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise, we can't get on with the story. This is
なる
a
ほど。
crucial step.
じゃあ、分かって分かって。せかすなって。ああ、でも、リメイ
Okay,
クっていうか、
fine. You're not gonna do it, but you know what?
うる
It's
さいな、こ
pretty
いつ。
humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have
確かに。
gone through the door on the right. You
いや、
could have
右の
done
ドア入った。
whatever the hell
で
you
も返さ
wanted
れた。
over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You...
散々な言われよ。ああ、あららら。あ、
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
なんてこった。
he entered the door on his left.
115。
Stanley? Hello?
あ、スタンリーが
Is everything okay?
操縦者がおらんくなったから、
I
スタンリーの顔
I
見
need
る
you
か。
to make a choice.
ジエン
I
ド
need you to walk through the
ザ・エ
door.
ンドってね。
Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right?
一般人って感じの
Stanley,
顔して
this
ま
is
すね。
important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you
で
understand?
も追い出されたからもう
The
操
way
縦
the
できひ
choice
ん
you
ス
make
タン
is
リーを。
just fine. They're both correct. You cannot
超
be
絶
wrong
お
here. We
説
can
教
work
タイム。
together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose
スタンリーは指示されたことしかできひんねんて。
anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there?
聞いて
Are
る？
you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make
で
sure
もそれ
your
生きてるか
choice
死
is
ん
the
でるか
right
分からんぞ、
one,
その
is the
人。
best choice. That's all right.
ごめんね、リロイ。
I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do.
ごめんね、
Take
リ
as
ロ
much
イ。
time as you need.
なんかこの人が作ったもう一個のゲームがあるんですけど、それでなんか、この人やったかな？それでなんか、昔友人を怒らせて絶縁状態になってしまったことがあるみたいなゲームがあった気がするんですよ。それの名前ですかね、リロイって。ちょっと覚えてないですけど。これって時間設定しても別にその時間になるとかじゃないんですね。そしたらもう普通、いつも、リアルの時間かと思った。しゃがめる、しゃがめる。ジャンプはできへんけど、しゃがみはできる。ダッシュはダッシュ
All
は
of
で
his
きなそう。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how
衝
hard
撃の
Stanley
事実。
looked, he couldn't find a trace
右
of his
クリックで
co-workers.
進むんですけど。ちょっとナレーションの人が喋る前に行ってみようか。ニューコンテン
Oh, new
Huh?
content? What does that mean? New
ツ。これ
content?
もしかしてウルトラデラックスの文字通りニューじゃ あ、でもこれ見たことないかも。
And thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in
家庭用パソコン向けに
2013
発売され
on
てる。
home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022
はい。
with
あ
the
あ、なんか
Stanley
生々
Parable
しいな。
Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
ゲーム機向けに出てん
The
の？
Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands
さらに
the world of the
深く広く
Stanley
し、
Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
エキサイティングな新コンテンツ。
Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh,
Whoa.
well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe
めちゃん
content.
こワクワクしちゃう。ナレーションでもワクワクしちゃってる。
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or oh, here we go.
Stop.
All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do
新
it.
コンテンツでいきなり閉じ込められて終わりかと思った。
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
あ、俺ナレーションの人の？
Tedious. It's
あ、
as if
まあ
the...
退屈ですよね。
Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
やかましい。
All right.
ザ・
All right. Let's
ジャ
see
ンプ
it's
サー
the
クル。
jump circle.
あ、できるようになった、ジャンプ。この辺にしようか。あ、ジャンプでできるとことできひん時があんねや。
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
これジャンプってもともとできん
Another
かったっけ？
elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not
このゲー
positive.
ムの第一印
It's
象は好印
just
象ではない。
elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to
20時間
30
分の新
trillion.
コンテン
You
ツは
could
ない
put
や
that
ろ。
on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes.
エレベーター
I
に乗
knew
るだ
there
けじゃ
had
ない
to
の、
be
さすが
something
に。
else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
なんで？
That's it?
Oh.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them
あ、ツイッ
personally
ターで見かけしたいって
accountable.
言ってる。
It's my fault, Stanley. I
もう
built
ツイッ
up
ターじゃ
too
なくなっ
much
たで。
anticipation
あ
around
な
the
た
new
たちの
content,
国
I'm
の人の
afraid.
おかげ
They
で。
could never have lived up to such
でもこの
expectations.
ゲー
If
ム
you're
もあな
still
たた
with
ちの
me,
国の人や
why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about? No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say,
新
friend?
コンテンツって何なんやろ？あれは戻された。あれめちゃくちゃ変わったけど。ナレーションのおじさん？写真がある。これがさっきの出たとこの写真。
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
一旦こっち従ってみるか。なんもない。でも右もなんかあったな、新コンテンツの方も。
Okay, you remember how
Watch your
cheap and
mini guy.
unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
急に世界観変わったけど。絶対にこの世界観にあったらあかんもあるけど。
I call it the memory zone.
これすげえ。
It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life
普通にすげえ。
whenever I
デッ
want.
ド、なんだっけ、レッドデッドリデンプションみたいな
Stanley Parable on PC.
ザ・メモリーゾーン。これはあれか？開いたエンディングとかが見れるとか？
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release?
じゃなくてあれか。
Remember back in October of 2013
今まで
when
の
the game originally launched? Back then,
スタンリー
video
パラブルに
games had
関する情報が載っ
integrity.
てんのか。
Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
オリジナルリメイク。でも綺麗やん。なんで押さず？デモンストレーションか。体験版かな。そういや体験版あったのなんか。スタンリーパラブルの。ロサンゼルスタイムズ。なんだこの穏やかな空間は。
And over here
どうしたどうした？
reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning
あ、
triumph
10
of
分の
games
10や。
journalism.
まあね。
10 out of 10
これも
from
そらそうでしょう。
destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game
まあこの
ever
ゲーム
created." Did you hear that,
ほんま
Stanley?
に今で
Every
もそんなに
game
定
ever
着してないし
created.
な。
That's how grand
さっ
and
き
all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable
言
was.
ってた
It was
日本語の
literally
やつが一つ
every
知ってます
game
けど。
ever created. It was
スカイ
Skyrim.
リムも
It
ペル
was
ソナ3
Persona
も。
3. It
なん
was
かすごい
all of
明
them.
確な名
And
前でき
now
たな。
it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore.
確かにそう。
It's just a husk.
これなんだこれ。
A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator
あ、開いた。
content.
また広い道や。なんだこれ、操作どうなってんの？左右、あ、だけか。マウスのクリックだけでいいんだな。でもなんか、このゲームでこんなに明るいの見んの、珍しいけどな。それだけでいいもん見
Here's
れたかな。
another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone.To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video
リメイク
game
作品に対する
memories.
皮肉言ってるよ、もしかして。こっちか。行かれへん。行かれへんわ。
These were simpler times, Stanley.But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again.
私なら戻らないし。でもこっち開いてんで。
Hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
また綺麗な世界じゃなくなっちゃった。
Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the
販売
online
レビュ
video
ー集。
game distributor.
へえ。
I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
あ、
Honestly,
Oh,
I
but
could not be
Nintendo.
bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be
めっちゃ綺麗
funny.
やん。危な
I'm。trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
意味わからんかった。意味わからんかったっていうか、あんま聞いてなかった今。すごいな。言うて去年出たゲームの新コンテンツなのに、発売当初くらいまでグラフィックとか落としてんな。まあでも、スチームの、バルブのゲームってこのくらいのイメージがあるわ。G モッドとかもそうやけど。今はでも進化してんのかな。てかこれ、常時ジャンプできんのなんなん なんでグッドはあんまりぐちゃぐちゃやのに、これだけよく。
While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I have always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
だいぶ荒廃したの。バイオハザードのステージみたいなのができたのか。あ、水のグラフィックが。
You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish
これってほんまに書かれてたやつなのかな
A skip button. Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's what I wanted today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything.
海底から建物が出てきた。
Yes, a skip button we shall have.
やった。スキップボタン導入された。
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was...
確かに時計見てなかったわ、
I
そうい
want
や。
to say maybe 30, 45 minutes?
今2時10分くらい。
unendurable by any means, but
もう一回飛ばしてみるか。
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been
あ、で
12
も30分くらい
hours.
で。
You've just been frozen
確か
there.
12時間経っ
I
た
don't。know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely
ほんまや。
I've looked at it from every angle.
なんてこった。
I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's
ないな。
just you and the
じゃあ
button.
これスキップしたら出てくるんじゃん。
Pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea. Oh, Stanley.
あ、
Back.
じゃ
You're
あ
back. Oh my goodness.
時計も見えへん
I
わ、
have
ほぼ。
someone to talk to again. Stanley, I
あ、
think it's
そんなに経ってんねや。もう電気も壊れちゃってるもんな。
I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here,
Crap.
not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking,
なんも。
you saying nothing.
あ、なんも見えへん。
Would you think that it's exactly the
ス
same?
キップボタンにたどり着かれへん。
Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing?
はい。あ。
Oh,
あ、
hello. It's
あ、
you.
よかった。
You're here again. Welcome.
真っ暗かと思っ
I
た。
have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you.
もう1
To
年も経
begin
ってね。
with, there is only regret.
時計
There
は
is only the turning wheel of missed
あ、
opportunities.
時計も止まっちゃ
I
ってん
felt
な。
nothing at all
時
but
計ってでも
regret
1年とか
for
で
the
止まらないの。
longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe
壁の裏
as
な
the
んかありそうやねん
collapse of every moment I have
一
ever
回も何もない
experienced
の
my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself.
あ。あ、これももう枯れてんねや。まあ水あげてないしな。なんかスプリンクラーみたいなやつが赤く点滅だけしてるだけになった。ナレーションのおじさんもどっか行っちゃった？おじさん？おらんくなった。うるさ。え？時計は壊れて落ちてる。火災報知器がうるさいからさっさ
But
と
they
スキッ
didn't
プしよ
understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human
う。出てきた
condition.
ナレーショ
But
ンのおじ
where
さ
are
ん。
the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands.
映画
But
このお
then
じさん
he's
も何
talking
年も
too
喋り
much.
続けて
They
って
said,
こと
first he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency. It's the lack
Ah.
of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no
この状況に触れ
consequences
てく
for
れ
a
へんか
lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it
普
into
通にス
being.
キップボタン押させへ
Have
ん
we
つも
been
りで。
given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward
あ
toward
んまり
the
面白くない
core.
話になったな。またおじさんおらんようになったほんで。あ、水漏れしてる。水漏れしてる？やばそうやな、それ。
The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the
あ、
end,
壊れちゃった。
is never the end, is never the end.
大丈夫、おじさん。
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end,
怖っ。
is never the end, 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 is never the end.
水漏れも増えてきてる。
End is never the end.
うるさいぞ。ああ、やべえ。もうここがピンチや。はい。あ、崩壊してるやん、ついに。これもしかして建物が崩壊したら外に出れるのでは？ 笑いの喧騒みたいなのが聞こえるのは、ゲーム内ガチリアルどっち？あ、来た。ホラーね。ホラーねっていうか脱出には繋がらんわ。出れはせへんけど。建物が老朽化して崩れるって、100年とかその単位ちゃう？ナレーションの人どうなったんやろ？あ、すごい。自然いっぱい。あ、めっちゃ G モッドやわ。めっちゃ G モッドって感じすんな、こういうの。軍艦島のマップでこういうの見た。ちょっとだけやったことあるけど。他に変化してるもんないんかな？押します。あ、植物もカレー。再び暗くなってきた。何も見えへんのかな？なんでこれ何も見えへんのやろ？あ、見てね。あ、そう出れる。音出れるっていうか。そうはならんやろ。アラバスタみたいになっちゃってるけど、外。すげえ。これ何？すげえな。どこまでも歩いていけんのかな？試してみるか、どこまでも歩いていくの。どんなパターンでも想定されてる可能性があるから、これゲーム。もしかしたらこの辺が崩れただけで、まだこの先には人里があるかもしれない。あ、行き過ぎた。帰ってきた。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
もう一回スキップボタン押したかったの。
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
何これ？さっきより激しくなってんねんけど。
Oh, good. You notice my sign.
あ、そうそうそうそう。
Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
まだ続いてんのか、これ。あれでも、リフトが。さっきの続きか？
You see, Stanley, I've
New
been
contents.
reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
なるほど。すげえ。
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel, an entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why there are so many possibilities? It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
それはでも間違いないぞ。より一層ね。
Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think?
新しいこともできるし。
What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2. Now
確かそれほんまに欲しいな。
statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising.
この発想力あったらだって全然いけそうやし。カラーレッド。イメージカラーの話？ちょっとそこしか読まれへんかったから。よくわからんかったけど。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to
まだ
be.
開発段
But
階
let's
だな。
take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
全てうまくいくでしょう。希望的観測なんずっと。シャーミはできんのにジャンプできんのか。お、すげえ、浮いてる。バスに乗るんじゃないんや。他になんかできることないかな。全部塞がれてんな。ニューコンテンツ。わあ、すげえ。すげえな。
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new
いくつかの新機能を試してみてください。新機能を試す？あ、オフィスデコレーション。安心のバケツ。このゲームをプレイしている人の名前を言うボタン。どういうこと？ Hear your name in the game。見てみるか。
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game.
名前
Isn't
を
that
話す。
wonderful?
Just right. Too small. Too big. これでもライトやもんな。ライトがでかいだの、小さいだのを書いてる。ほんで Try to hear. Name.
Sorry, I
Jim.
should have clarified. Right now, the
Eh?
button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's
Whoa.
have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as
ジ
Jim.
ムとして生き、ジ
Sleeping
ム
and
として眠
waking
る。
as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim,
誰
and
なん
as
ジムは。
Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
ジムが誰かわからなかったらなりきるの無理やね。
Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again. Jim. Oh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in
何こ
the
れ？
Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money.
これだけ
Let's
はどう
take
せ
a
金
break
払う
from
価
the
値ないや
Jim
ろ。
button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much.
人はジムになりすぎる
I'm
ことがあ
putting
り
the
ま
Jim
す。
button away.
初めて見るな。
Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all
待て。
sense of
おい。
who you actually are.
せめてこの部屋開けとけよ。帰れとね。ジムになった。
I
ジム
suppose
に
I
なっ
could
た
allow
だ
only
け。
people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
エピローグあるね、ここ。エピローグあるよ。これが2のあれ発想。あんま変わってないように見えるけど。壁のテクスチャ変わっただけで。Free new to easy。ああ、すげえね。でもなんか、 なんていうの、展覧、てかこいつなんでこっち向いてんの？あ、コレクト全方。これめっちゃいいやん。何ここ？綺麗。綺麗やけど暗いな。
In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
何これ怖いよく見たら。地獄みたいになってる。やった！ 1個目ゲット。スタンリーのフィギュアね。真っ暗で何も見えへん。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
ジャンプサークルあるやん。出口。出口でも閉まってんな。あ、じゃあ、あっちか。ジャンプサークル行ってみるか。ジャンプサークルってさっきのやつやろ？あった。
You know what, Stanley? I actually think the jump circle was a pretty good idea. I'd like to hang on to that for the sequel.
続編のためにぜひ保持しておきたい。なんで？しかもジャンプ数引き継がれてたしな、今。ああ、ジャンプできんくなった。あいつまた変わってんの方向。デザインがおしゃれすぎるやろ。フリー実績。無限の穴。フリー実績見てみるか。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
これはまだ動かんと。これまたスタンリーの向き変わってんのかな？これいけるけど暗いだけやな。ここはそもそも行かれへん。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
見てない展示？ノースクリーンショット。スクリーンショットを撮ってはいけない。
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like
スタンリーってこんな感じな
But
の？
I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
12歳の誕生日か？
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along.
お、
Happy
飛んできた。
12th birthday, step-niece it is.
もう押されへん。あ、変わってる。すげえ。
Or actually,
視線外してる間にどんどん変わってんな。
no, I've made my decision. We're moving on.
私たちは先へ進むのです。あ、スタンリーの向きが戻ってる。ジムのボタン復活してたりせえへんかな？復活してないと。無限の穴って何？それ気になるんだけど。無限の穴も気になるし、ここも気になる。エピローグ。
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end
いや、
of the...
わかる、それは。
Well, we'll figure
エ
that out
ピローグある
later.
と楽しいのはほんまにわかる。セッティングワールドチャンピオン。何それ？どういうこと？セッティングワールドチャンピオン。書いてるわ。初期フォントで。あいつ回ってんのか？回ってんな、ゆっくり。無限の穴行ってみるか。無限の穴って名前からなんか不穏やけど、すでに。オープニング。はいはいはい。よく見るやつやね。お、
Stanley, here's an
また
idea
この
that
部屋
I'm
や。
truly fond
ねえ、
of.
好きや
It's
な。
never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a
あ、
hole
作ってる。
that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning
何がおもろい？
leap forward for video games as a medium.
恐ろしいだけやろ。インフィニティフォール。穴の側面やばすぎるって。この部屋、なんでこの部屋なの？よし。
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my
マジ
more
や。
ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then,
動
since
ける。
you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
G を押すと地上へ戻ります。はあ、なるほどね。
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
なんで？なんかすごいすぐにやらせようとしてくるな。
Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole.
あ、もしかして
Is
無
it a
限じゃ
very,
ない？
very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole.
まだそこ
I
が
don't
ある
want
ってこ
anyone to
と？
say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a...
いた。
Okay, well, good for
お
you.
前、
You
穴の
found the
底あるやん。
bottom of the hole.
あ、
You
見えるちゃん
found
と
me
上。
out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall
New muggle.
infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the
ま
problem.
た怒ってるわこの人。
Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this
ほぼ無
behind
限
us
だ。
and agree to just call the whole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
このテクスチャーとかめちゃくちゃ使われてんな、いろんなとこで。戻らなかったらなんかあんのかな？このゲーム結構、数分とか単位で待たないとあかん時があんねよな。そうなってくるとちょっと難しいけど、もうちょい待ってみるか。どう？何の変化もなしと。
Great. Now,
帰ってきた。
I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
これからあなたに、さらにいろんなアイデアをね。でももう全部見たで。多分。わかる。眩しい。急になんか、目いた。まだ見てないのあるっけ？ That's new. あ、変わってる。ほぼ無限の穴に。 あれってでもエピローグのとこやな。ちょっと見に行ってみるか。このゲームのでも、恐ろしいところっていうか、指示からナレーションの人の指示から、管理、安心の馬術。指示に従ってないと見せかけて、実は従わせられてんのな。ナレーションが用意されてるってことは、想定内やのな。
Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it.
結局操作されてんの
I'm
な。
happy to say
プ
that
レイヤー
after
も。
much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution
想定
to
外の
this
こと起こされへん。
fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket.
なんなんそれ
You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the
どういう
bucket,
こと
a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart.
あ、バケツ来た。
As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect
こ
solution.
のバケツが何なん
Give it a try.
お、来た、開いた。何笑ってんの
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air
カリ
of
スマ性を与え
charisma
る。
as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a
そんなわけ
person.
ないやろ。
The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
バケツ持ったまま出れるやん。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
バケツ持って出れんのかなあとほんまに出口くらいやと思うけど。いや、ヒヤ。あるよな、こういう看板。高っ。ほぼ無限の穴じゃん、これ。こういうとこは長らく行ってないな。
All right.
こう
Have
い
you
う
seen
雰囲気の
everything
場
you
所は。
wanted to? Ready to move on now?
ラジオ落ちてる。ノースクリーンショット。
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these
すごい、
features will
カ
come
イジの
together
地下
as
闘
one
技場みたい
single
な
coherent video game, but
場所
I
来た
feel
な
it。in my soul. It's going to work.
別に地下
There's
闘技場ではない。
definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
お始まった。あ、あれあれや。
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement.
あれがある。
Okay, yes. Yes, this is much
フィギュアがあっ
better.
た
I
のに。
feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
おー、す
Who am I
げえ
kidding,
な。
Stanley? This isn't a
ぐしゃぐしゃなんだぞ、お
coherent
前。
video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I
バケ
wanted
ツがあ
more
っ
than
て、
anything to create a sequel
コレクションアイテム
that
がある
would
と。
capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original
Oh.
Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it.
あれ
Tastefully, of course. With
それってもしかして
with care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could, but it would need a really
凄まじいタイトル画面が必要です。
A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
お始まってんけど、マジで。セッティング。普通にセッティングできるわ。色味でもホラーすぎ。フィックスとスキップしま、出た。スキップできる機能や。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building
見てみる。
where he was employee number
誕生日の風船が飛び回ってんな。
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons.
新機能だけで全然楽しめない。
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons
パソコン使いたての人
how
ね。
long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change
今んとこ痛感はないけどな。
Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked,
普通
frozen
にあれやぞ。
solid, Stanley
ス
found
タン
himself
リーパラ
unable
ブ
to
ルの物
move
語
for
で
the
す、これ。
longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
まあちょっと賑やか
All
な
of
で
his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
なんか変わってんのか、これ。鏡これ。鏡ではないな。向こうにも部屋があるんか。
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it?
バケツが彼に拾ってくれると語りかけるように。バケツなんてこった。
Stanley picked up the bucket.
やった。バケツゲット。なんやったっけこれ、安らぎのや
Stanley
ったっ
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and
け。バ
entered
ケ
the
ツを
door
強
of
く
his
抱
desk.
き、左のドアに入ってきました。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him.
バケツが彼を呼んでるように。
Employee lounge was simply the place to be.
従業員ラウンジだ
And
と。
here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
これすごくない？
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
既存の物語からこっちに繋がってるよな。
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
あ
Go somewhere
バケツが言っ
else.
てることに
The
なってる。
cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
あ、下の道ない。下の道、下の道だけどコレクションアイテムある。どうやって行くんや、あれ。ここへ。よしよしよし。
You found one of them.
Yatta.
One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these Only the
集めても何の報
intrinsic
酬もないですよ。
pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
ハンニーのその笑顔あんま見たことないね。この板ほんでどうなってんの？どうやったらそういう構造になれんの？ほら。どこ？知らんとこにワープさせられてんじゃん。コレクションアイテム集めたら。
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number. I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket,
バケツの研究してるやん。
anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still
ナレーターサウンドシステム。
I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms.
エビデンス。
Why everything feels so.
上の147だか8だか関係ある
What
の？
do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket.
なんか支配されちゃってんな、バケツ
It's
に。
my golden ticket. But I have to be careful. Because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a
どうした？
target on my back.
お
Even
い、大丈夫
now,
か？
I don't know who might be trying to get. What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
急にホラーゲームになったな。しかもクリックです。こっちかな？じゃあ、クリックでスキップのシステムなくなってるしな。お、戻された。じゃあ戻ってないわ。バケツある。
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
次
and
左行ってみ
entered
る
the
か。
door on his left.
一応さっき右は行ったかな。あ、でも行ったって言っても途中でそれたんか。あ。How we can find them. 2個は手に入れてんだよな。ここにもあんのかもしかして。あ、もしかしてこれ置いてる場所書いてる？うわ、でもわからんな。字が読めねえ。あ、いた。
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it
確かに。
deserves the bucket.
バケツのふさわしい場所よな。
It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend.
バケツにそんな思いやりないって。思いやりちゃうわ。思い入れないって。
Is this how low the broom closet has sunk that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is
いろい
worse
ろ
than
な
I
理由
had
があって。
imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply
まあ
that you
ね。
and the bucket are not
この物
truly
置とは
deep
いろい
and
ろあるでし
lasting
ょう。
friends, that your relationship is purely superficial and convenient, that your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner. Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the
一
years.
旦扉閉めてみる
Let
か。
him have it. Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this
Alright.
debate once and for all.
役
Here we
立つものを
go.
持ってきた。お、
There. Now it's settled. No more debate. No
名
more
前つけられ
discussion.
た。
Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
物置を去るのだってか、物置を去らないとか。
All
用じゃ
right,
ない。
I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate.
何貼ってくれんのやろ。
You
お、
see? I
何これ。
feel that it works because the sticker is
これ関係ある？
also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing
ニコ
you're
ちゃん
holding
マークみ
is
たい
a
な色合いで
bucket
バ
or
ケツ
not,
書かれてる
you
みたい
can
な。
look down at this sticker and
お
say
か
to
しいやん。
yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
まだ貼ってくれるかな。
You know what? I could take the name calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you
外で
and
また会おう。
your bucket.
あ、なんかずっとでも声遠のいてたな。ほんまに外出た？もう一回入ったりしても特になんもない。なんもないな。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs
で
to
も
the
これ下って
boss's
何があるんやっ
office.
たっけ？下こんなに、あったあったあったあった。
Another miniature Stanley figurine.
Yes.
This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs.
ミニスタンツ。
What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
もう間違った道行かないとフィギュア集められへんやん。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken
まあで
that
もこの
risk?
辺は
All because he believed everyone had vanished?
本
His
家
boss
本
would
元
think
と
he was
同じやな。
crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket
バケツが
returned
絡んで
his
きる
gaze,
でも
but said nothing at all.
本家本元のあれに
That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these.
バケ
He
ツは
held
知
the
恵とか
bucket
くれへんやん。
close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket.
1、2、
It's just a
B4。
normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what
bucket
sorts
skater.
of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd.
1、
Now
2、
he felt
B4。
himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed.
Oh,
Without my
we did that.
bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to
あ
him.
ったよ
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
な。お、バケツだらけや。
Stanley, find me!
He had to
あ
find
の
the
バケツ
bucket.
シール貼
He
ってる
had
か
to
な。
return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his
すげえ。
sanity. And then suddenly, it froze
バ
dead
ケ
in
ツだらけや。
his He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was
彼
inside
の
him
中にいた
all
のです。
along. It was
どういう
incredibly
話の展
painful.
開？
Stanley doubled over in agony.
飲み込んでる？
Blacked out.
あ、すげえ。光り輝く
This
バ
is
ケ
the
ツの上に
story
スタンリー
of a
人形があった
woman
の。
named Mariella.
あ、うん、これは本家本元にあった
Mariella
気が
woke
す
up
る。
on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her
あ、でも
bucket
バ
of
ケツ絡ん
comfort
で
and
きてるわ、これも。
security and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad.
なんかもうバケツに支配された世界になっちゃってるやん。
Describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him.
でもこのエンディングはあるんですよね。
He'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this.
不思議な世界がさらに不思議になっちゃってる。
Problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself. My life kicks
私
ass.
の人生やべえわ。こんなギャルやったっけ？すげえな、バク転で？とんでもねえや。
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were.
ちょっと変わ
Just a
ってん
matter
な
of、time.
文章が。なんか文章が無限に変わり続けんねんけど。ミーティング today。ミーティング today つってんぞ。あ、シールも貼ってる。バケツ無視するか。一旦バケツ無視して。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
バケツ取らんかったら普
The
通に戻
lounge
る？
was sublime, a work of art. What
ってい
was
う
it
わけでも
about
な
an
いか。
eager to get back to business? Stanley took the first open door on his left.
で一旦全部無視していって。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years
あ、
ago.
下の道あるな。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing in your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has
新コン
been
テン
about
ツってなん
nothing
か
but you all this
若干
time.
エンディングが増えるだけ
There's
かな
someone
と思
you've
ったけ
been
ど、
neglecting, Stanley.
割かし変わってるやん。
Someone you've... Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you
Really?
have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know
こっ
how
ち
to
行けんのは知
convince
って
you
た。
of this, but I really
開いて
do
ないか。
want to help you. To
扉
show
開いた
you
かと思ったよ。
something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important.
あ、
Stanley
やった。
walked through the... Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm torn
スタンリーフィギュア集めてる。
Stanmarines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
てか、書類埋まりすぎじゃない？ごめん、どっちの部屋に入るかマジで聞いてなかったから青に入っていいかな。
Aha, perhaps you
あ、
misunderstood. Stanley
どうした？
walked through the red door.
あ、赤いドアって言ったんか。
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
青いドアあるやん、ちゃんと。
All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You
どう
want
ぞ、
to know
Stanley.
so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
そう何があるのかちょっと見に行こうと思って。
There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building
あ
this
ー、ち
section
ょっ
of
と
the
待っ
map
た。
because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is
これ
this
しくっ
what you
たな、
wanted?
多分。
Was it worth ruining the entire story I'd
これ
written
配
out
信時間中にできひん
specifically
や
for
つに
you?
近づいていっちゃってん
Do
な。
not think I put a lot of time into that, because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing, because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles?
Vehicle?
Skill trees? Work
い
with
や、
me.
スキ
You've
ルツ
given
リー
me
苦手やからな。
absolutely nothing
ビ
so
ークルはいいか
far.
も。
Tell you what,
ビークルは追加し
let
よ
me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead
Yeah,
of
何
where
これ？
we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
これ入ってみるか。
Okay.
あー、
I'm
ほ
going to
ら。
stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking
こ
for
れあれ
some
か。
real critical feedback here.
評価ってことか。
A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully
これ
express
マジで
itself
とんで
mechanically
も
and
ない収録
artistically,
数
but
よ
a
な。
1?
このナレー
That's
ショ
not
ン。
even helpful. What am I supposed to
ワ
do
ン
with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new
お、新しい
version.
バージョン
And
作
to
成
be
しました。
perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one.
場外
Let's
ホー
take
ム
a
ラン
look.
級。ワールドワイドリーダーボード。ああ、なるほどね。スコアボードか。すげえ。おもろいやん。ほんで、これは何って？
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest
対戦
answers, please.
対戦って言われてもな。
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been
新しい
working
ゲー
on.
ムの作品を
Now
作っ
would be
た。
a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you?
もちろん。
Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the
あ
baby
あ。
crawls left towards danger. You
そう、
click the
これ
button
ね。
to move him back to the right. And if
こ
he
れね、
reaches
で
the
きないんですよ。
fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once
こ
you've
のエン
been
ディング
playing
で
it
き
for
ないんですよ
about
ね。
4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's
そう
effective?
4時間
Be
プレイし
sure
て
to
確
keep
かめてみてくだ
notes
さ
on
い。
your experience.
これちなみに4時間ガチでやらされるんですよ。これうるさいんで一旦それしましょ
You heartless bastard.
う。この血
Did
の
you
涙
do
のない
it
野
because
郎
you
ね。
hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. It's over.
帰
Thank
る。
you for playing.
おお、お前
Your
どうすんの？
input was extremely
お
valuable.
前が帰ったらどうすんねんっ
Okay,
て。
since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain.
このナレー
Let's
ションって
see.
作者じゃないの
What
多
do we
分。
have here?
さすがに。
Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot. Aha! Fascinating.
何こ
What
れ
do you think this game
世
is
界観
about,
ガラッと変わっ
Stanley?
た。
What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to
なん
me
か
that you are meant to play as a
近い
creep
ゲームも知ってるけ
spying
ど、
on innocent civilians below
そうか
you
な？
from up
違う
high
か
in
な？
your creep tower, perhaps for some
肝
sort
タワ
of
ーだな。
twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it.
でもあんまり
What a
ピンとこへん
fascinating
な。
venture into the
でも
experience of
海外ってこう
total
いうイラスト
mental
調のゲーム多いですよ。
depravity. So far,
グラ
I
フィッ
love
クが若干
everything
イラスト
about
テイ
this
スト
game,
みたいなやつ。
Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come,
この
let's
割と好き
venture
です。
outward and see what else is out there.
扉の開くことめっちゃマイクラやったけど今。でもこういうとこ嫌いじゃないかも、こういう空間。 あ、すげえ。どうやって登ってん？あったわ、書いたの。こういうなんか全部がひとまとまりになった部屋いいっすよね。トイレとお風呂があれば完璧かな。それがないから完璧とは言われへん。
Oh no. No, 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 it can't be.
何が？ダッシュできひん。ジャンプも相変わらずでき
It
ひん。
is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off.
ああ、なんでこった。おいおいおい。
Thank goodness, Stanley. What a close
オ
call.
ープンワールドのゲームええやんけ。
You really wandered off into that thing. That big,
どれや？
open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just
オ
go
ープ
in
ン
any...
ワールドゲー嫌いすぎん。
Oh, thank heavens we are...
嫌な思い出ある、なんか。
We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls.
壁があるものをなんとかいけるやつ。
Okay, I think this
これって実在してる別のゲームなのかな？気になるな。え？よく知ってるよ、このゲーム。
See, this is exactly what I had in mind.
このゲームよく知ってる。でも走り回るもんじゃないぞ。あ、もう書いちゃってるやん。
Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally
最近もやってるって。え、ロケットリーグってバルブのゲームじゃないの？
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must.
ボール出してよ。シュートしよう。
Have fun.
シュートの音とかってあるのかな？あ、ちょっと速度上がった若干。ちゃんとロケットリーグの音なのかな？シュートの音って変えてるかわからん。ならへんのかーい。あ、落ちちゃった。あー、すごい。
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
ぐちゃぐちゃの世界に落ちてきちゃった。ああ。あれ、ロケットリーグの先あったんかな？それはそれで見てみたいな。なにこれ？サイレントヒルみたいになっちゃった。サイレントヒルもう死んだかと思ったけど、もしかしたら小島監督が引き継いでくれるかもしれへんという淡い期待を抱いて、今生きております。あ、でもこの部屋、ここ若干あそこっぽくない？オフィスから出たとこっぽいな。もしかしたらあ、そういう感じなのかも。ちょっとロケットリーグの先を見たい。やっぱそうや。427。ということは、あ、道順たどろうと思ったら返された。
If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
で、これ戻されんのかな。Never is the end. 戻されたな。
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes?
この文章変わってんのよな、毎回。
Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses
動
were
くね。
turned? He made a note to be
マジですごいぞ、
more
このゲー
careful
ム。
from now on.
やばい。どこまで行っても終わりが見えへんけど。いった、いや、ちょっと待ってよ。バケツ拾うと、さっきのゲームへの道がなくなっちゃうかもしれんから、一旦ゲームの位置
Stanley
に
came to a
目
set
指
of
すか、
two
また。
open. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on
で
his
走り
left.
抜けた時のセリフちゃんと用意されてるのいいですよね。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5
もう一回
years
先の
ago.
ルート行ってみますか。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've
す
got
げえ
off
な、
on
ロ
the
ケリを
wrong
初めて見
foot
た。
here.
なんか別のゲームやらされるのは知ってたけど、
I
多分ロ
realize
ケリはなかった
investing
は
your
ず。
trust in someone
てか
else
発
can
売
be
時だってロ
difficult,
ケリなん
but
か
the
ないや
fact
ろ。
is that the story has been about
このゲー
nothing
ムが
but you
2013年から
all
あった
this
とは到
time.
底思われへん。
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
ちょっと怖いな。
Really? I was in the
落
middle
ちたら
of
死ぬ
something.
し。
Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something
Okay.
beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
ガンマチブルードア。その扉の感じで引きドアやったんや。
Ha! Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley? All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so
Thank you.
badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished
こ
building
ういう
the
ところでも
section
ポー
of
タ
the
ルであり
map
ました。
because you were never
こういう
supposed
感じ
to
の
be
空
here in
気
the
感と
first
かは。
place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire
ゲーム
story
の
I'd
開発って
written
ほんま
out
にこんな感じなのかな。
specifically for
どうなんや
you?
ろ。
Do you not think I put a lot of
全くそういうのわからん
time
から
into
な。
that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley.
ゲーム
Help
の開発が
elucidate these
絶対無理
strange
や
and
わ。
unknowable desires
メイ
of
ドイン
yours.
俺のやつ
What
でも
would have made this game better? What did you
あ
want
の
to
程度で
see?
も理解難しかったもん。
Skill
あんなもん
trees?
作るため
Work
に
with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far.
めちゃくちゃお膳立てされてるゲームでも。
Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices?
ここまで待機してた
Feel
らなんか
free
言わ
to
れへ
be
んか。
honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. A one? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved
まず
to
ね。
more fully express itself
手始め
mechanically
に
and
1。
artistically, but a one? That's not even helpful. What am I
One.
supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
これね、んで。ランキングボードね。ランキングボードがガチとかあんのかな。さすがにないか。
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly
あ
forgot
れ
I've got a
のたどり
prototype
着き
of a
方
new
が分か
game
っただ
I've
け
been
でも
working on, and
で
now
かい
would
な。
be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In
これ
this
ね。
game, the baby crawls left
これ
towards
変わってんの
danger.
かな？
You click the button to move him
知っ
back
て
to
るや
the
つ
right,
は、
and if he reaches the fire, you
最
fail.
終的に
It's
す
a
ごいこと
very
になるのは知
meaningful
ってんだけ
game,
ど、
all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the
さすがに
demands
今
of
からはでき
family
んのか。
life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the
今
game
からは
only
できん
becomes
だよ。これ
clear
できる
once
人、
you've been playing it for about 4
なかなかの
hours.
忍耐
So
力
why
が。
don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
赤ちゃんの声嫌いな人もおんの。
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or
赤ちゃ
purely
ん
to
の声が
spite
怖いって人
me?
もおるから、
Because if it's the latter, well, I don't
そ
know
ういう
what
人
to
にとっ
do.
たら
I'm
これってほんま
completely
に
out of
絶望的
ideas.
な。
I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing.
まずすね
Your
てね。
input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
で、オープンワールドゲームさせられるんですよね。ゲームのラインナップ変わってるんだとおもろいけど。
Aha!
でも見たこ
Fascinating.
とないもんね。
What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a
これ
creepy
何や
man,
ったっけな？
spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of
雰囲
twisted
気だけで言えば、
erotic
キウイの
purpose.
ゲームこんな感じだったけど、
Yes, that must be.
キウイの
What
ゲ
a
ームを知ってる人が
fascinating
お
venture
ると
into
は
the experience of total
思わ
mental
ってないけど、別
depravity.
に。
So far, I love everything about this game,
なん
Stanley.
か鳥のキウイが出てきて、
Come, let's venture out
どっちかというと
and see
子
what
供の
else
チ
is
ー
out
ク
there.
ゲーみたいな感じなんですけど、でも大人でも普通に難しい難易度のパズルっていうんかな、まあ、ちょっと頭使うようなゲームがあるんですよね。面白かったんですけど、それもイラストのテイスト的にこんな感じだったの。
No, 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 it can't be.
あと最近出たあれか、最近でもないか。
It is.
あの
It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off.
海のやつもそう、こんな感じだ。
Close call.
海に流れるマイクラみたいなやつ。
That
船に乗ってイカダを増やしていく。あれなんてやつだっ
just
けな。
wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to
あ、ちょ
follow.
っと
You
名
can
前
just
覚え
go
てないですけ
in
ど。
any.
あれも面白そうですよ
Thank
ね。
heavens we avoided it. We're out of the
見てて
woods now,
結構、
Stanley.
さっき見える。
I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be
こういう
just
とこっ
the
てこうや
thing.
って水、あ、これね。いや、
Wonderful.
だいぶ再
See,
現
this
度
is
高い。
exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to
てか、
run
だってもう
around
ロゴは
in. There
使っちゃってる
isn't
もん
any
な。
possibility that you could get lost here. Now
いいん
this
だな、ロゴ
is
使って。
game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally
外の
impressed.
建物が若干チャッチーくらい。
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back
あん
here.
まりロ
Is
ケッ
this
トリーグっ
game
て近くで
sports
こんなに見る
ball?
ことないから、
Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun.
珍しいか
We can run
も
the
しれ
bases
ない。
and do a
そういう
touchdown
点で言え
together.
ば。
Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball.
あ
Have
の
fun.
矢印とか買ったもん、旗とか。こうやったボール。ボールもこれ多分本家のボール。いいよ。これ壁登れんのかな？
Are you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun?
勝って
Is
る？
it
楽
better
しい
than
で
my
す？
miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I
ス
have
ポ
a
ティのストーリーよりいいです
and I
か？
realize I'm not a sportsologist, but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal
I should.
pleasure, then surely multiple balls makes for an even more
ボール
euphoric
が複数あれば
sports
大喜びの
experience.
スポーツ体験が
I'm
でき
going to
る。
try it out. Here comes another ball.
ボール落としちゃった。あ、
Yes.
すげえ。
Oh goodness, that really
二
does
つや。
feel amazing, doesn't it? Stanley, I'm like a child in a confectionery shop. I simply have to have more.
いいね。
I'm insatiable. More balls.
まずシュート。お、やばい。こいつ。ボール場面に打ちやがった。ボールの色が変わるのもあれやな。 完全再現や。
Are you enjoying this, Stanley? Are you having fun? Is this a real video game? Well, I sure hope you're having a good time because guess what? It's over.
終了です。
Right.
あ、お、
Your
終
little
了され
fun
た。
comes to an end. This is my game, and what I say goes. You get to have
なん
fun
か
when I let you.
視線
Stanley.
低くない？
Besides, you need someone like me to set boundaries for you.
僕
Without
前進
rules
して
or
る？
boundaries, video games are nothing. Yes, that's what I am. I'm structure. I'm your sense of purpose. And since you decided you didn't want to play my game, now I don't want to play with you either. So, goodbye, Stanley. I'm leaving. See how you like it when I'm not around to set the
ルールを
rules.
設定しなくなったらどうな
I
るか。
don't think you'll enjoy it as much.
あ、じゃあ新しいゲー
Who
ムこんだけ
knows?
なの
You're
か
an
な。
inventive kid. You'll come up with something. After all, you're the one who knows best. Take care, Stanley.
急に怒ってんな。ロケットリーグの世界に置いていくん？ロケットリーグの世界に取り残された。もう何のゲームやってるかわからんやろ、こんな画面になったら。ロケットリーグって書いちゃってるもんな。この辺ってこんな感じやったっけ？それに関しては覚えてないわ。どうすんのこれ置いていかれて。結局飛び降りないとあかんのかな？こっから出れそうな感じがあったけど、別にそういうわけでもないと。どこ押してもこの音なんねんな。ああ、じゃあ飛び降りるしかないんか、結局。すげえ。降りるか。
Hold on. What are you doing?
ああ、じゃあ変わらんねんな。
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you.
戻らんルートっていけんのかな？さっきやろうとしたらこの道やろ？こっち行って、どんなルートやった？ちょっと待てよ、これ。正規ルートの方一回しか行ったことないから。でも今行けなさそうやったな。行けそう。扉や、これ。ああ、こうなってくると無理かな。今だって左から入って右から出たもんな。じゃあもうこれは戻るしかないんか。で、これでもう一回こっち行こうとすると、終わると。
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right
これ
now.
はさっき見ました
I
ね。
wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I
膨
am.
大すぎひんか、情
That is
報
what
が
I。mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close,
振り出しに戻ってるで戻ってないの。
the end will be here
でしか
soon.
も、これもうすでになん
Very
か、
soon.
スタンリーパラブル2とかで別のやつになっちゃってるし。どうしようかな。まあ、花から全コンプリートするつもりはなかったんですけど。最後のバケツ持って通常ルートでクリアしてみますか。
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely... The
Buckets.
confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
で、左ね。
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
で、会議室を抜けて、 これはいいわ。で、さっき
Coming to
下
a
行ったんで上
staircase,
行きましょ
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
う。久々やな、ここ。あ、やった。
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the
おい
second
あと
number,
1個とか言われる
and that
と
will be it. We'll be different people by
この
then.
先にないかな。
Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
これ全部揃えたらあれかな。リアルで送ってくれへんかな。やった、エレベーター来た。全然正規ルート行かへんやん。最後に正規ルート行ってとか言ってた。全然行かへんやん。なんかスタンリーって言ってない？着いたわ。着いたわってか帰ってきただけやねんけど。下はどうなの？これそれだけの部屋
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
バケツは最初から分かっていたのでしょうか？
Guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
この辺にもでも脇道あるんですよ。あ、やった！揃っ
And
た。
there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley.
Wiggly Wiggly.
This
名前変わり
is
す
a
ぎてない
real
なんか。
accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward.
見て
I
も
would tell you that
下
I'm
の書
proud
類
of you
埋ま
for
りすぎやろ
collecting
な。
them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
ん？フィギュアをコンプリートしたまさかの。
The elevator
いっ
raced
ぱいあったのか
downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring him in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
電気が後ろから飛び散ってたけど。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
エスケープ何やったっけな？
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent
ハ
death.
ンディとバケツは非業の死を遂げるのです。
The door behind them was
バ
not
ケツ
shut.
死ぬ。
Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were
まあ
knowingly
好奇心
walking
抑えられへんかった。
into a very painful
通常ルート
death
でクリアしようと
for
思
each
った
of
の
them.
に。あ、まあでもこの辺も同じやな。バケツが差し込まれてること以外は。
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death.
え？解放された。
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's
立
true
派
that
な
all
バケツが
buckets
死
are
んでしまったこ
radiant
と
in
は。
their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
バケツマジで死んでるやん。あなたは今知識の崖に立っています。人の精神をたびたびバケツのように空っぽになります。空洞の中に虚無感さえあります。しかしあなたの目の前にある展示物を使うことで、心は豊かに満たされ、具体化されます。このバケツの知識とその歴史は、私たちが持つ唯一の真実の知識なのです。ここであなたが学んだことを世界に持ち出すつもりですか？この点の情報について課題があるかもしれませんが、心を開いてくれますか？あなたの生活やあなたの大切な人をこの展示をきっかけに変えられますか？もしくはあなたを目を背け、何言うてんの？でもこれ通常ルートでも展覧会があるんですよね。
Can you see how
それはでも
arrogant
バケ
it
ツのもの
was
に変
for
わってる。
Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the
地獄
bucket
バ
is
ケツ。
far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
洞窟の絵。こういう空間
No
作るの
man
得意
can
やな。
own a bucket, and
こういうと
certainly
こ好
not
き
a
やったんか
bucket
な。
as dazzling to
作者さん
behold as
が。
this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
ぶら下げられたバケツ。眩しい。浮いてるね。
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine.
パーツを
Don't
機械で
reset
砕
the
きましょ
game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley
う。そういや、
die
こんなんやったな。
together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision. 見て。で、帰ってくると。あれ？あ、え
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines.
あ、そうそうそう、集めたで。
I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the
騙し絵みた
brim
いになっ
with
てんな、なん
inner
か。
richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
珍しここ。珍しちゃうわ。懐かしここ。もはや懐かしいな。ああ、これね。そうそうそうそう。こっから全てが始まった。
Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
何ここは。 なんか見つけちゃったよ。え
And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the warehouse. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest.
ここはもう2つ目の想定やったんよ。
Find any of them, let alone six.
7、やった。
But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
あ、開いた。ほんで
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember?
3つ目を見つけたのどっちやったっけ？こっちじゃない？3つ目を見つけたのここな気がする。
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here under the stairs. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget
で
your
も
third time
2周目
doing
の
anything.
1個目手に入れてないぞ。来た。
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a figly in this pink room.
ちょ、何ここ。
I remember being in this room, but it's here in the
知らん
main
とこ行った
zone,
で。
so it must have happened.
どこここ？あ、道ある。道あるってここあれやな。これ見つけたとこやな、これ。
And this one was really something special. It was in the boss's bathroom. I remember it so
上司のトイレ、でか
In
すぎん。
fact, because this one is particularly
トイレ飛べば
special to
後ろ
me,
すぎ
I
んよ、
made
み
a
たい
little
な。
video to commemorate the occasion.
星言わせて。
Enjoy.
何急にめちゃくちゃ古い映像始まったけど。いつの時代の想定した映像ね。うわ、なんか構成も古いわ。
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a
こ
lot
んな
of
壮
time
大ちゃう
making
って
that。video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
めっちゃ舞台裏やん、なんか。これ上司の部屋か。
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final
So.
figurine, right here behind the boss's
これね。
office. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a figly and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
何言ってかわからん全然。あ、これ飾れる？違うわ。テレビやった。
And
あ、
then
映ってる。
there was no more.
合わせ鏡みたいになっ
Because
てる。
we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the
ここまで。
loading screen. Isn't
あ、
there some way we can
戻って
stay
たロー
here,
ディン
keep
グが。
enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
どういうこと？あ、またあるやん。
Okay, yes. The back of the boss's office. I remember
Aye,
this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep
てか、
going. I
赤と
want
青の
more.
部屋でも手に入れんかったっけ？それがピン
And
クのとこ
here's
なの
where I
ね。
made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
あ、もう。ありがとう、早送りで送ってやってくれて。
Yes, I love that video.
ほんで、ここどこなん？
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this
いや、
one.
そう。
Good room, though. A solid room.
うん、まあ、嫌いではない。嫌いではないけど、これどこなん？
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
なんか抜けれる道があるわけでもないな。あ、こっちの道ってどうなってたんやろ？上がってないわ。ってことは行き止まりってこと。
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it?
オンリーアップみたいになってんな。
This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the Figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came
手
before
口があるぞ。
this?
プロジェクトゼンウォール。あ、帰ってきた。でもなんか質素になってるというか暗いな。
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm... Oh, yes! The two doors! Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
確かに。懐かしいな。でも中身は違うっていうか一緒やな。
And before everything else, there was your office.
その先にはなかったよな。
Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
オフィスより前？
Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me.
なんかゲームの開発費は？
Decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
あ、2に戻った。
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
戻ったの。どうなってるんや、これ。
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
ちょっとこれでゲームのとこ行ったらどうなのかを見て、この終わりますか？なんか終わろうとして、もう、新しいコンテンツが次から次へと出てくるから。
Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
あるな、道。
No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else.
The cargo lift, yes.
フィギュアはないと。
Go to the cargo lift. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do. Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
マジで次から次へと新しい国って
because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact.
何通りあん
He
のこ
was
のゲーム
firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
絶対今んとこバケツの言う通りにしてないぞ。
No, stop. Look
Oh.
there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past
Hi.
this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a
いや、
bucket
バケツを
and
持
what
って
isn't
き
a
て
bucket?
もいいか
I
どうか
suppose
わ
that
から
would
ないですね。
explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true,
中になんかあ
well,
るな。
my goodness, I think we have to do something about it.
これかバケツ。
This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed.
全然話聞いてなかっ
quickly.
た。
So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
あ、じゃあもうゲームの方行かれへん。でもあ、もう、やばいな、このゲームな。
Now then, I'm
一
going
生
to
続い
run
ちゃ
you
う。
through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is
バ
not
ケツかバケツじゃないかについて。
Okay, let's begin.
お、始まったクイズ番組。
Item 1. Is this a bucket?
はい。
Incorrect. It is a hologram of a
あ、
bucket,
知らんわ、そ
not
れ。
an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket?
ブ
Incorrect.
ーなんや
It。is a 3D printed
3D
recreation
プリン
of
ト
a
に。
bucket, not an actual
でもそれは
bucket.
バケツやぞ。バケツとして使えるから、3D プリントやったら。ほんでこれ3回目で
Item
物出してくるん
3.
やろ。
Is this a bucket?
で、これ×押したら×になるね。
Correct.
いや、マ
This
ジや。
is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a
何
bucket?
これこれも見ようによっちゃバケツや。
Are
違
you
う。
hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an
これは
enormous
トラクター
machine
で
that
すよ。
tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the
Incredible.
next one. Is this a bucket?
これはでもバケツやろ。どう見ても。水入ってるしな。
Correct.
ほら、
This is a bucket.
バケツやん。
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick
やった。
question. Both. Gotcha.
どういうこと引っ掛けなんだ両方
Item. Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. Should be around here somewhere. Okay.
No,
You and
how is
I
that?
both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket.
But
when we
some何も
both
ないとい
clearly
う。
know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
哲学の話してる
You know what?
え
I'm too confused to even sort it
こっ
out.
ちのセリフやねん。
I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago, I could
別
answer
に
these
他のとこ
questions
行け
with
る場所
confidence.
わけで
And
も
yet
ない
now
な。
I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself,
あれ
and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't
バ
have
ケ
that.
ツが
I'm
私たち
sorry.
の関係を
But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
あ、やばい、どっちも消えた。やばいこと言ってる、しかも。 バケツを消し去るとか言っ
What
てる。
happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my god, I had
ど
no
ういうことなの
idea.
これ。
How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket
これって
after all. And you, Stanley,
単に
you're
バケツ
still
なの
here.
か、
You're not a
海外で
bucket
は何か
either.
しらのスラング
No,
になっ
this
てる
is
のか。
wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all
全て
a
のバケツを
bucket.
戻しま
But
しょ
if
う。
you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
どういうこと？一応戻されんのか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
あ、バケツあんぞ。
Stanley
Bucket
picked
just-
up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone. Not with
バ
the
ケツ拾った時
bucket
のセリフって変わってる？
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and
なんか
entered
毎回
the
変わって
door
そうや
and
な。
left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort
全
now
然終わりど
more
ころを
than
見失
ever.
ってるんですけど。
Perhaps his boss's office was coming to a staircase.
今度こそ普通のクリアして終わりますか？
Upstairs to the boss's
バケツを持っ
office.
て。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
論理的とは思わへんけどな。
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
あー、ここもあってんよな。いろいろ。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in
これ
shock.
もなんか変わってんの？
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as
こんな
Stanley
バケツは
cradled
初
it
めてで
gently,
す。
reassuring it that everything would be fine.
うわ、ここもなんか思い出してたな。
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish
バ
to
ケツ
do?
が望んでいないのか
What
な。
kinds of things does a
ど
bucket
んな
want
日
to
本語
do
なのマジで。
or not want to do in the first place? These questions
日本
raced
語ちゃうか。
furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and
これ
commanded
一番
from
最
this
初にやっ
very
たんだ
place.
ね。
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
これをバケツ持ったままでやるとどうなるのか。
Stanley and the bucket waited in
ちゃん
blackness.
とバケツの
Was it
でし
over?
ょ。
Yes,
こ
they
れ
had
全
done
パ
it.
ターンバケ
Stanley
ツあ
and
り
the
きで
bucket
やり
had
直したん
defeated
か。
their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere
やば
moments
すぎる
away.
か。
Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life
こう
they
いうの
envisioned,
から
but it was one they'd lived
平
together
和な日常
with
に
one
戻るのっ
another to
て
lean on, to trust, to
すごい
support.
ありがたみ感じんねやろ
What? Wait. What
な。
was
何倍も
happening?
あれ
Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the
Door?
bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming
バケ
presence
ツを
of
持
the
ってたら
bucket,
変わった。
needed the soothing warmth
あ、
of the bucket. Will go to any
道も見えへんく
lengths
なっていってる。
not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
あ、帰ってくんねや。へえ。という感じですね。予定より全然1時間くらいやっちゃったんですけど。ナレーションの人？ナレーションの人？
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard boxes to your place of work. Can you verify that this is correct? Excellent. Your order will arrive
らしいっすわ。
shortly. Thank you again for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation.
らしいっすわ。ということで、なんか異変が起こってるんですけど、完全に異変が起こってるんですけど、終わろうと思います。でこのゲーム、ね、ほんまに無限なんですよ、ほぼ。まだまだあるんですよ、確か。で、その上、この、なんていうんですか？今このスタンリーパラブル2みたいになってますけど、プラスバケツパターンもあるんで、さらに増えてるんじゃないですかね。パターンが。
When Stanley came to a set of
あ、
two
戻っ
open
てきた。
doors, he entered the door on his left.
なんか確率でしか出えへんやつとかもあるんですよね。
Yet there was not a single person
だから
near
そういう
either.
のを、
Feeling a wave of
があるん
desperate
で、
relief, Stanley
いや、てか
decided
これ、
to go up to his boss's. Coming to a
僕
staircase,
も
Stanley walked
いろい
upstairs
ろや
to
りたいや
his
つ、
boss's office.
いろいろあるんで、まあ、もしかした
Stepping into
ら、
his manager's office, Stanley
動画
was
か
once
もし
again
くは、
stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
また
Stanley
配
was in
信
such
で
a
やるか。
rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a
もうわ
single
からないです
minute
け
to
ど、
just let the
これの
narrator
コンテン
talk.
ツに触れることがある
That
かもしれない
kind
で
of
す。
anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
あは、あれや。急ぎすぎたパターンのやつが入ってますね、今。いや、ほんまにこんな感じで何パターンもあるんですよ。さっきのナレーションがなかったやつも確か、
Feeling soothed and
前半でまだできることあったと思うん
Stanley
で。
calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
これぜひやってみてほしいですね。そんなに価格も張らなかったと思うんで、まあ少なくとも8番出口よりか高いですけど。ただ別にね、このウルトラデラックスバージョンじゃなくても、シンプルの方も面白いんで、
Stanley walked straight ahead through
元
the
の方。
large door that read Mind Control Facility.
元の方は、 もう、スチームにあったんですけど、そっちはもっと安かったですね、確か。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did
なんで
this
これぜ
place
ひやってみてほ
hold?
しいですね、ほん
Stanley
まに。
thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
あ、ちょっと。これ登れんのなんか戻れるみたいなのがあった気がするんですけど。てね、終わるっつってんので。終わるっつってんのにこれ進めてたら終わらんやろって。こんな感じで。てかもうナレーションが指示してきて、それに歯向かうだの、従うだのだけじゃなくて、なんかもうあっち行ったりこっち行ったりとか、あと確率でこういう異変が起こったりとか、異変が起こってる時に何かができたりとか、あとはもうこの放置してるだけでも、場所によっては別のことが起こったりするんですよね。このゲームほんまに神ゲーなんで、まあ結構流行ったんでもう見たことある人多いと思いますけど、ぜひやってみてほしいですね。自分で探索していろいろ探してみてほしいです。多分考えうる限り、あれもできるし、これもできるしみたいになると思うんで、やってみてほしいですね。ということで、僕はここで終わりますが、まあ、もしかしたら動画などでまた出てくるかもしれません。いやもう久々にやりましたけど、なんか、ウルトラデラックスっていうのも、ちょっとエンディングもこれ途中で言いましたけど、ちょっとエンディングが追加されてるくらいかなと思ったら、普通になんか、がっつり倍くらい追加されてて、もうだってどこにどうやっていいかわかりませんもん。な感じで終わりますか。って話し始めたらこれまたスタンリーパラブルと一緒で一生続くんで。本日もご視聴コメントありがとうございました。よかったらまだの方はチャンネル登録、高評価、それから Twitter のフォロー等よろしくお願いします。ということで、お疲れ様でした。ありがとうございました。